Saturday at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 local time in Eugene. The nation will be tuned in on CBS as the number 7 Indiana Hoosiers collide with the number 3 Oregon Ducks. It's undefeated IU making a statement run against an Oregon team built for the college football playoff. Can the Hoosiers defense disrupt the Ducks' rhythm? Will Indiana's offense rise to the moment on the biggest stage of the season? Tonight, we dive into the matchups, the keys to victory, and what it will take for the Hoosiers to shock the nation. Buckle up, Hoosier Nation. The Hoosier Tailgate starts now.
And picked off up the sideline. Indiana, Asbury, walking them down. Woo! IU, America, they got a football team now.
Yeah, it would help if I had the sound on there, Coach. I'm too excited. And I'll just go back and recap what I said there because, hey, you guys got to get the full version of tonight. Apologize for that little technical difficulty. Figured it out quick. I was saying that we got a big one this weekend. We got number 3 Indiana on their way to take on the Ducks at 5-0 in one of the most electric environments in college football out west. This is going to be a dandy of a game based on the belief, execution, and composure. And we're going to break it all down here tonight on the Hoosier Tailgate. I talked about some of the topics of discussion we're going to talk about tonight. We'll talk about Indiana's first 5 games, what has worked for the Hoosiers, Oregon's fast start, and what they're looking at as it pertains to being the number 3 ranked team in the country, which I do think it's a slight to them. I kind of think they may be the best team in the country, as well as the Big Ten. And I also think we'll look at the matchup of Mendoza versus Dante Moore. Both of these quarterbacks are one of the tops in the Big Ten Conference, but as well as the country, and as well looking at NFL dreams and as possibilities coming up on the horizon. We'll talk about that matchup. We'll break down some statistical things that you want to look at and pay attention predominantly these two teams are evenly matched in a lot of ways on black and white. But we'll talk about some more of that in a minute, as well as what I think are going to be the keys for this Hoosier ball club to play a flawless ball game in Eugene. And it's going to take that for them to come out on top. And I do believe that they can win it if they can do some things that perhaps maybe they haven't done to date. But against this Oregon team, you're going to have to play your A game, because they bring it each and every week. Dan Lanning is a phenomenal football coach. He's got a phenomenal football program there. And as I was saying, maybe this is redundant, I believe they are the best team in the country, as well as the Big Ten. The fact that they're ranked number 3, I do think that's a little bit of a slight against the Ducks, because I do think they are the best team in college football. Also tonight, like I was referencing earlier, if you go over to my Hoosier Tailgate X page, there's a link tree with a bio in there that will give you all the affiliates that I'm associated with, as well as the link to the Hoosier Tailgate Fanatics store, where you can get a lot of different things there. Fanatics is one of the tops out there for not only game day apparel, but just basic apparel and book bags, you name it, wallets, keychains. They've got it all at Fanatics. So if you would happen to go to any one of those affiliates that we have here at the tailgate, remember, we do get some of a commission that is kicked back to us here, and we just try to roll that back in the show to defer some of the overhead costs that we incur here, trying to bring you the best and number one source for all things Indiana football each and every week during the season on Mondays and Thursdays, as well as if you're listening to us via the YouTube channel or on X and you want to participate by putting in a question or comment, by all means, we want this show to be something that everyone can participate in. If I can get to questions, I will, and we'll give you some answers the best that I can, and we'll go from there. But a lot of things are going on in the world of sports. If you caught me today on the Indiana Sports Beat radio show, as I sat in for Jim Coyle, who is is already out in Eugene, Oregon. If you love sports, this is the time of year to be actively involved in watching, because you've got NFL, college, high school football drawing to a time of year where they're getting ready for a lot of different tournaments to start, as we're already heading into week, I think it's 7 in high school football, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 8, I'm losing track. But you got that. You've got NHL hockey starting not too far away. You've already got the Big Ten media days, and for basketball, you're going to have the NBA. So great time of year, second favorite time of the year. Of course, my first being the start of college football at the onset of August. But you know what has worked for these Indiana Hoosiers these first 5 games of the season, and I don't think there's any question when you look at this defense that Indiana has assembled again under the leadership of Brian Haynes. They have been a key to everything that Indiana has been able to accomplish, even though in some of those games at the early onset, they dominated. This defense did get off to a shaky start against Old Dominion. They settled down, got things under control, and the offense took over, as did special teams. And then they went on their 5-game roll. But they've played quite well. Mendoza has gotten comfortable each and every week. I thought this past 2 weeks ago against Iowa was an important ball game from the standpoint. That was the game where he was challenged. That was the game that he was going to get hit a little bit. That was going to be the game that he was going to have to make a play at some point during that ball game. And he did. And it took him a few snaps to get there. But they made the critical play to the guy, Elijah Surratt, who is the most talented receiver on this ball club, who gets everything that he deserves in terms of his work ethic and how he plays the game. But I don't think there's any question that Mendoza has gotten more comfortable as the season has gone on as well. And the wide receiver group, I do think, is a very talented group with Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt, 2 of the best in the Big Ten, highest graded in the Big Ten. but two of the best in the Big Ten. And then you throw in EJ Williams, who I do think is going to have to be a factor Saturday in Eugene. His length has got to be something that Indiana tries to utilize against this Oregon defense vertically in this ball game. But I do think EJ is going to be someone that Indiana is going to have to find ways to target on Saturday afternoon in Eugene. The last thing I would say, what's gone right for this Indiana team, special teams. Special teams has been a huge, huge positive for this group of Hoosiers, as they've done quite well each and every week, from returning punts to blocking punts to the kickers doing well in terms of ball placement in the end zone, punt coverage units, as well as extra point and field goals. They have been on point from day one heading into this week. We did discuss as before the season, as we talked with about this ball game and this season per se, is that Indiana was going to have a 2-week, 3-week gauntlet heading into the Big Ten. And they had that start with Illinois on a Saturday night in Bloomington against the number 9th ranked Illinois Fighting Illini. NBC national TV audience in Indiana throttled them 63-10. And that was the start of that gauntlet we talked about that went to Iowa next. And they go there and get another huge win. And to be 2-0, facing the third game of that gauntlet, playing on a little bit of house money, where they were able to get the job done and get wins the last 2 weeks. Huge, huge, huge for this Indiana squad heading out to Eugene in that aspect of things, because had they lost a game, they would have been in a situation they were going to have to win out in Oregon as well. We'll talk a little bit too as well tonight of Oregon's explosive start. You can always count on Dan Lanning to have one of the top offenses and defenses in the country. He's done quite well for a young coach that's gone into his first head coaching job after leaving Georgia and putting together a squad that by all counts is one of the tops in the country and has been pretty consistently over the last few years in this whole time era that he's been with Oregon in that regard. So you got to think that this Oregon ball club will be ready to play just like they were ready to play when they went to Penn State. He talked about 1,000 cuts as he prepared his team to go into the Lions' Den, so to speak, a whiteout condition at Penn State, and got the job done there in double overtime. But this is the type of things that this coach, he has done with this squad, and does has done a great job. And in terms of preparation, his ball club each and every week for that. And that's a key component as well. And then when you talk about some of the key matchups, we did discuss a little bit there of Mendoza and Moore, two guys that are fairly close in their statistical data points. They have both only thrown one interception on the year, completing well into the 60s and 70% on their passes. And, that's going to be a key thing as well. They haven't, well, that's kind of true. I don't think Altmaier had a great game against Penn State, but, I've already said Penn State's game against Oregon was a bunch of hodgepodge. They just did a bunch of different wacky things offensively, formations and things that really almost put them out of it because of what they got in return from this Oregon defense. And I don't think Drew actually was very comfortable in that ball game throwing it for the most part. But the other key matchup to watch is, of course, the O-lines versus D-line. Indiana's D-line, of course, has been great to start these first 5 weeks. They've gotten great production out of Hosa Wheeler. They've gotten great production out of Landino. They've got it from Tucker and Daly and Wyatt. Now, Kamara, I've said that he is not having the productivity that he's accustomed to having over the last year. But remember, he came into the Big Ten. Nobody knew who he was. And he got each and every week, he start putting his name into the memory banks of every team that he played. And this year, they're making sure that they have him accounted for on the defensive line. And while that may be frustrating for him to a certain degree, at the same time, that's freeing up other guys to be in one-on-one situations. And Landino, a kid that I said was looking to have that breakout year, I think has done quite well in his start thus far. And that defensive line is going to be pivotal Saturday against a well-coached and huge offensive line where the differential up front's about 40, 50 pounds across the board on both sides. So it's a big offensive line for Oregon as well as their defense against Indiana. So there is a little bit of a mismatch per se, but I guarantee it, Coach Haynes will have ways to accentuate what the positives are for his defensive line and implement them against Oregon's defense. And I expect to see a lot of different types of movements and twists to a degree. You won't get too crazy with it because you have a tendency to maybe overthink that part of the game, but that will be a key component. And then from Indiana's offensive line perspective, there's no question that Coogan's been a huge benefit for Indiana. And the left side of the line has been a very big positive for Indiana in terms of their PFF grades. They've come out pretty strong. I think on the left side, they've only given up true one pressure on the year. But the right side has been a concern. It is a concern heading into this game with Evans and Benson because, number one, their pass blocking grades on PFF have not been great, but they've also given up 6 pressures on that side. And that is something that I guarantee you Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks are going to exploit to see, has Indiana rectified what the issue is there? Because that has been a glaring, analytical data point that I've seen through PFF. And if I'm seeing it, you better bet that Oregon is seeing it as well. So those two men are going to have big time games, their best of the year on Saturday, because they are going to get a lot of things thrown at them from a very quick, aggressive Oregon defensive line with 2 big bookends. And you know who I'm talking about when it comes to Oregon's defensive line. Those 2 guys on the outside can go get it as well. So that is one of the things we'll take a look at as well. And wanted to hit into some of the schedule for this week before we get into some the other topics of this evening and get into the Coach Griff's video room as well, if things work in that way tonight. And so far, pretty good. But you got Rutgers and Washington on Friday night out in at Washington. Right now, 10.5-point favorite for Washington. A little surprised with that one. But Washington's played well. They went to Maryland last week and got a huge win. The big one also on Saturday on Fox at noon, Ohio State at Illinois. Right now, Ohio State's a 14.5-point favorite, as well as the Saiyan kid from Ohio State had a kind of what you'd call maybe a breakout game against Minnesota last Saturday night. And he was dropping some dimes into Jeremiah Smith and Tate. And he made some great throws, man, I tell you. And he does what a great quarterback does, throwing deep. He gets plenty of air underneath it to allow his wide receivers to adjust to the ball and be able to just run underneath it with very little effort other than that. So he does a pretty darn good job with that. It'll be interesting to see how Illinois comes back in this ball game after, they lose to Indiana in a game that was completely shock to them. They go to Purdue, get a big win there last week. Prior to that, USC comes to town, top 25 team, and they get a win after the Indiana game. And you got to hand it to Brett Bielema and his staff for for the regrouping that they were able to do to get their kids back on point and come up with a top 25 win over USC, and then going on the road to Purdue and picking up another one. So this ball game on Saturday will be an interesting ball game, especially because it's at Illinois. And I said before, Ohio State is really, really good at home. It's not that they're any different on the road, but they're not as much in terms of the really part that I just said. Maybe it's only one really good as opposed to three really goods on the road. So that game will be a tough matchup for Illinois. But again, we'll see what happens there in Champaign-Urbana. UCLA coming off a monumental win against Penn State. And they had to East Lansing take on the Spartans, Aiden Childs and company there in East Lansing. That's going to be a good ball game to keep an eye on. Of course, both these teams will be coming to Bloomington in not so distant future to play the Hoosiers. But right now, the Sparty's a 7.5 point favorite. We got Indiana at Oregon, 3:30 on CBS. If you're heading out there, a 12:30 kick out on the West Coast there in the Pacific Northwest. Oregon currently a 7.5, and that spread opened up, I think, double digits at the beginning of the week, over the last couple weeks, I should say, and it's come down to 7.5. I've seen it at 7 on some sites and at 7.5 on others. But that ball game, 3:30 CBS, and right now the forecast for that ball game is overcast and rainy there, which is not an uncommon thing in the Northwest. Nebraska goes to Maryland in another big matchup. Maryland's got the young quarterback freshman phenom who has been very, very good, and he's in being just coming out of high school. He's had a pretty good start to the year. Raiola from Nebraska playing at a top level there as well. And this ball game, I think, has got another a big chance to be a big dandy on Saturday as well. Penn State hosts Northwestern, 21.5 point favorites. Things are not so happy in Happy Valley after they got beat by UCLA, but we'll see if Coach Franklin can bounce back and get a big win against Northwestern on Saturday. Wisconsin and Iowa, this one in Madison, 3.5 point favorite for the Hawkeyes, and another battle and somewhat of a rival game there on Fox Sports 1. Michigan at USC. That is on Saturday night. USC at the moment, I believe, is a 2.5 point favorite. I'd have to double check that. That may not be the case. But anyway, Michigan looking for, quote unquote, a statement win heading on the road against USC with their young freshman quarterback as well. And then, of course, Purdue. Coach Odom takes his Boilers to Minnesota to take on the Gophers, who are a 9.5 point favorite. And while Coach Odom has not gotten to where he wants to be as a program, you got to give him a tip of the cap to a degree, because quite honestly, he's done quite well there in reconstructing that ball game. And of course, they played Illinois this past weekend. And while they came up short in that game, they battled. And you can see where Coach Odom, in time, is going to have a pretty darn good ball club. And that's a game that Indiana will play, of course, as the rivalry game at the end of the year. And I got a sneaking suspicion that's going to be a dandy of a ball game potentially as well. When we look at some of the things with the power rankings and stuff, let's see here. Let's get over here. Let's see if we got them. There we go. Big Ten power rankings thus far. Indiana right now at number 3 in the Big Ten. Not too much changed. There were some teams that fell out. Penn State, of course, dropped some, as did Wisconsin, and UCLA moved up in a lot of the different shuffling of in the power rankings thus far right now. But Oregon is number 1, Ohio State 2, and I do think that's a fair evaluation based upon they're playing with a more experienced quarterback at this point, and that to me is a big differential when it comes to big time games. So I do think that's kind of the difference makers for me in that respect. That is a ball game that will be a game that potentially could be a Big Ten championship game as well. When you also look at Michigan there at 4, Illinois gets back up into the top 5 as USC kind of takes a spot back. Nebraska moving up, Washington moving up. And so you can get a feel there for the different power rankings this week in the Big Ten, as well as just a reminder of the poll right now. Indiana comfortably at number 7 in the AP poll, Oregon at 3. And, we kind of talked, Indiana is at that point where they've done themselves good against pretty much all the different Big Ten teams that they've gotten to play. Only losing to Ohio State and Notre Dame, and has one of the longest winning streaks, I believe, right now in Bloomington. And this is one of those games where you like to see them get themselves in a position that they can get a win against a team like a Oregon or a team like Ohio State, because eventually they got to be one of those teams that gets over the hump there and gets a signature win against a big time opponent within the Big Ten, similar to what Ole Miss did to LSU a couple weeks ago. That was a key component as well in all that. We're going to take a look here at some of the ESPN stuff, as you see here, and their FPI situation as they have listed. And I'm not a big FPI guy. Part of it is I don't quite necessarily totally understand it. But overall, the Hoosiers there in the 3 spot, 21.4 FPI ranking. And, it's a pretty good assessment when you look at it across the board, what their percentages may or may not be right now. 72% chance of making the playoffs in that respect. And they're only a couple points behind the Oregon. And then, of course, the Buckeyes at 24.2. And then under the, what they call the resume, I guess you call it. Let's see if I can pull this up as well. Indiana right there with a strength of record at number 8 overall. And you can kind of see the rest of it here. Now, their strength of schedule, again, we know that, but their remaining strength of schedule is pretty good. They're right there at 32. When you look at the Buckeyes, they're at 36. And not too many other teams, but Indiana comes there at 32 in that respect. So Indiana setting quite well. Of course, winning only keeps getting you better there. Of course, a loss in any of those columns can hurt you. And then when you look at the efficiency aspect of things, 91.4, offensively almost to 80%, defense close to 90%. And special teams has been quite good, as I said before, 72.3% in that regard. Whoops, as you can see with all that, but wrong button there. But anyway, let's see if we got any other questions in here, so I don't miss anybody. Yep, we had the audio issues. Be happy to avoid mistakes, penalties, and just play well. Might have to be better kicker. Well, yeah, I think the kicking game for Indiana has been strong thus far, and they've done the right things by getting the points when they needed to. But that's something that I think Sig's going to have to really think about as well When he's got a chance to get points on Saturday, you're going to need them, and you got to be calculated on what you do for fourth down. Indiana's right now 1 of 4. That hasn't been one of their strong suits this year, going for it on fourth down. Now, they haven't had many opportunities in that regard, but they were pretty good at it last year. And, you know, they had quite a bit of success on fourth downs a year ago. Not so much here in the early going of the year. So I think he's going to have to be calculated when he goes for it in situations, and if need be, take points instead of trying to force an issue and get a 10-point turnaround because the team, Oregon goes back down and scores. So those are the things that he's going to have to be on the lookout for on Saturday as well. We're going to step aside here real quick, come back and take a look at Indiana versus Oregon stats, and then jump into Coach Griff's video room all after this here on the Hoosier Tailgate on thehoosier.com.
Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here, and nobody gets. You ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors? Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find everything you need, from grills to jerseys and more. Be a watch party legend with gear from top brands like Nike and Under Armour, all at unbeatable prices every day. With 8 Academy stores across Indiana, including our Bloomington location, fun can't lose, and neither can you. Gear up today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. 1. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. 2. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. 3. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season 1 for the history books. Make it legendary. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER available in the U.S. Call 877.
Welcome back to the Hoosier Tailgate here on thehoosier.com. I'm the Coach Shannon Griffith. I appreciate you joining us here this evening, whether it be via YouTube, Facebook, X, or listening to us on different platforms such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can find us there as well. Please, if you get a chance, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And I read all the comments, and if something I forget to answer, I kind of go back and see what I missed. And if I can give you an answer, I will. So appreciate that as well. And all the guys that have been in each and every week here of the season here on the Tailgate. Brian, Coach, do you think I use playbook open ups this week with some stuff we haven't seen yet, or keep it simple, stupid? That's a loaded question. Well, two things to that. Yes, Indiana does run an oversimplistic offense. Good, bad, or indifferent. They're not a offense that does a lot of what I call junk stuff, kind of what I accuse Penn State of, and kind of show you some of that here in a second. But I think they will. They've been predominantly an inside zone team ever since Coach Shanahan has been here, and mixed in a few of the outside zone concepts and a few counter game and power game, which I think they should do more of personally. But that's me and my background. I think you have to be able to block down, kick out, pull through, especially against teams that do like to shoot the gaps and things of that nature, or play a lot of the bare front, which Indiana sees quite a bit. But what they do very, very well in their run game is the run pass option. And that has eliminated the necessity to do a lot of check with me's or having to put a lot on the quarterback to change a play completely. That's a very beneficial thing when you're going into hostile environments like they will on Saturday, having that run pass complement. I do think they need to force the vertical game more. And this is a game that I think they need to have some vertical game to it. And they do need to continue to exploit, when it's available, center field throws and, get over that medium range, because most of the passing game for Indiana this year has been between the 18 to the line of scrimmage. Not many throws have gone beyond that. But I do think they got to Saturday get in a mindset of taking some shots and using the length of E.J. Williams and the versatility of Surratt. And Mendoza is not a great back shoulder type of throw guy like Rourke was. Rourke could do it flawlessly. I haven't seen Mendoza do that much, other than what they did at Iowa when they kind of threw what I call a fade stop, when Surratt kind of burst off and then he kind of stopped and the ball was there, where Curtis Rourke would throw a ball into that back shoulder where the wide receiver was the only one to get it. Some quarterbacks, it's a simple concept for them. For others, they struggle with that for whatever reason. I just don't think Mendoza has quite grasped that throw. And I do think he has to get some air underneath the ball at times, because there are times when he tries to power it in, even on long throws, where he's not getting enough air underneath it to allow an E.J. Williams to go run underneath it, or Omar Cooper, other than the one that Omar dropped against, I think it was Old Dominion. Can't remember. It's been a while now, but down the middle of the field. But anyway, I do think there'll be some wrinkles, Brian, to what those may or may not be. Could be just formationally a little bit, maybe what they haven't shown, maybe a little bit more movement, but we'll find out if we get some other plays other than just a steady diet of inside zone for that respect of things. So anyway, let's switch over here to here we go. Indiana versus Oregon. Statistically, this, as I show you each and every week, we do what Indiana's and the opponent's offense are producing. And you can see here already from what we've got between these two ball clubs. They all have the same bye week. They have the first 5 weeks of the season, but both are scoring 47.8 to 46.6. Rushing yardage, Indiana with a slight advantage there over Oregon in that respect. Remember, Indiana started, I think, with 4 straight games of 300 yards or more rushing. I don't think Indiana as a whole has done that too much in the history of Indiana football. Roman Hemby, I think, has been dynamite. I do think they've got to utilize him a little bit more on Saturday. Big, strong guy that can bang it up in there and has the ability to bust through the other side. Passing offense-wise, you can't get any closer. 270 to 264 in that respect. You've got both schools well over 500 yards of total offense. Third down conversions, Indiana has been tremendous this year. They're right at 58%, while Oregon's right there at 51%. And then you can see the fourth down conversions right now. Indiana 2 for 8. They haven't had that many because they've had that success on third downs. As far as Oregon is concerned, they've gone for it more and will go for it. Dan Lanning's an aggressive coach, but they're coming in at a clip at almost 70%, and Indiana was that way a year ago. Red zone opportunities. Look at Oregon there. Red zone scores, that means anything from a touchdown to a field goal. 100% on the year, 23 of 23, where Indiana is 89%, 26-29, pretty darn good as well. But as you can see, Oregon, when they've gotten into the red zone, they're coming away with points. Let's see here. Touchdowns in the red zone, Indiana right there about 89%. Oregon, as you can see, is right there at 83%, where, they've had to settle for a little bit more field goals as opposed to Indiana. And then the scores by quarters. Look at that. Indiana 63-65 in the first half. Oregon 51-69. So both these teams have put the beaten down on their opponent in the first half. And then third quarter scoring, which is what some people believe is a big aspect in terms of statistical analysis. Oregon 73 points in the third quarter, Indiana 66. And then fourth quarter scoring, Indiana 45, Oregon 27. That can get a little bit out of hand because of by the time both these teams get to that fourth quarter, it's pretty much over anyway. And they've got the other teams in here. Again, big number here. Turnovers, points off turnovers. Indiana 31, Oregon 31. So both have been good on that respect, getting points off of turnovers. Defensively speaking, this is Indiana's defense versus Oregon's defense. As you can see, both are very good. 9.6 for Indiana, 12.2 for Oregon. Indiana has a slight edge in rushing offense, the rushing defense, Pass defense, you kind of give that to Oregon by about, technically right there at 10 yards. Overall total defense, both are good. Indiana's been phenomenal on third down conversions right now, 23.81%, which is pretty darn good. And so is 30% when you think about it from a defensive mindset. Fourth down, not too many teams have gone for it on fourth down, but when they have, Indiana's been pretty good, as has Oregon, 70% stopping of a team going for it on fourth down. Red zone scores, yes, you can see there, both of these defense, it's hard to get in the red zone against them, but teams have gotten some points out of it. Indiana has been the one, only three times has an opposing team gotten into the red zone, and only one of them's gotten touchdowns in the red zone. That's just unbelievable. Each team, Indiana has 16 sacks on the year, and Oregon has 9 total, and the turnover margin is +6, +5 right now with these two ball clubs. So as you can see, pretty even in that regard. There's some of the big names that we'll talk about here now with Dante Moore, redshirt, came out of UCLA. Detroit, Michigan kid. And again, these are these guys in this Midwest area. Guys like Indiana need to try to keep some of these big-time guys home instead of heading out to the West Coast. Averaging 242 yards a game, 14 touchdown passes on the year thus far, QBR of 183.3. As you can see, big kid, 6'3", 210, can run it, and he's completing 75% of his passes, so pretty good deal there. Mateo, the big bookend on the outside, already 5 TFLs for 21 yards, 4 sacks. He's a guy that Indiana is going to have to acknowledge what they do with him in pass pro. And if they put him on the right side with Benson, Evans, they're going to have to make sure they give some type of help, whether that's chip in the back or just keeping the back in. We'll have to wait and see. This kid's California kid. Grew up actually in Hawaii, I believe. 2 quarterback hurries, 3 pass breakups. He is just a big-time player. Next kid we all know, being a Purdue boy, Dylan Theitmann. He's been what I call a rover back for them. You'll see on tape how they utilize him, and they utilize him well. Westfield, Indiana, transferred from Purdue. He led all DBs in tackles last year for a very bad defense at Purdue. He's already got 1 quarterback hurry and 1 breakup. The 1 interception he had was against Penn State in the double overtime. He was a first-team selection in 2023 as a freshman. Indiana, I know, did try to get this young man. I wish they would have landed him because he is a great ball player. And he's a guy that makes plays. He just makes plays. The other running back situation there, Hill, kid out of Illinois, just a true freshman. Couple true freshmen on this Oregon offense, averaging 10-4 carry, 270 total yards. 4-star recruit, top 10 running back, top running back in Illinois, but top 10 nationally via the recruiting services. 5'11", 205, he's the Kellen Black type of body. But right now, 54 yards a game, 2 touchdowns. Outside, Moore, receiver, kid out of Texas. He was a 5-star, but a number 1 ranked wide receiver nationally. So you can understand this is a big-time player for Dan Lanning's offense. 5'11", 195, 15.6 yards average per catch, 2 touchdowns. Again, Pons and the DBs are going to have to make sure they understand this young man, where he's at. He's a big play potential, as is Benson, the 6'1", 195-pound senior. He's transferred from Florida State and Alabama. So he's been at a couple places. As you can see right now, 16 receptions, 2 touchdowns. The best linebacker they got, I think, is this, I think it's Bochair. He's out of Eugene, 6'2", 232, moves well. I call him the leader of their defense, 40 tackles on the year already, 1 in INT, 1 breakup. And you can see there he was drafted by the Houston Astros in 2024, so you know what type of athlete he is. A pretty darn good one. But you'll see he's kind of that stout backer that they'd like to do a lot of things with, and he can play the spot with the best of them. He kind of reminds me of Aiden Fisher, to be honest with you. And then the other one on the D-line to be aware of is this young man here, the other bookend, out of Sheldon High School there. Total quarterback hurry, 6'3", 262-pound junior, 23 total tackles. He's already got 2.5 TFLs and 2.5 sacks on the year. He is very quick, and they like to do some twisting and turning with both him and Mateo at the other end. But both of these guys are definitely threats on the outside for Indiana. And I would say this kid here is a little bit more fluid on the outside. He can run. He can got a pretty good reach on him. So it will be a tall task for Indiana with this defense and offense, as you can see there with some of these guys that they will face on Saturday out there in Eugene. We're going to jump over here into the coach's video room here quickly here as I get it lined up and put together and all that good stuff. We're going to start with Penn State versus Oregon offense here as soon as it loads, and hopefully it'll load here quickly. Been having some trouble with all this, but again, this is a offense that's been dynamite all year, and let's see if I can get it over there. Okay, here we go, I think. Yeah, there we go. Again, offensively, they are pretty much run it and do it. This is an unbalanced set, as you can see here. Tight end, 2 wideouts with a lead blocker. You'll see some of that. They're pretty good at running the outside zone, as you can see. Guys that are able to get to the up to that second level, pretty darn good. And you can see the size of these guys. They're big, strong, and they can move, and they do quite well. And as you can see here, their snap count that they used at Penn State is the same snap count as Indiana used, silent count with the guard tapping the center. Now, Indiana would flash the hand. So, as I said, there's not too many ways to create a silent count, and you just kind of have to get what they will run the open set like they are here, 5 wide receivers, and what they want to do here is get a light box. So if nothing's open from a passing standpoint, Moore can take off and run it, and he's pretty good at that, as you'll see here later. But he gets the ball in and out of his hands pretty quick. Pretty strong arm. Mendoza, reference-wise, is getting they actually gave up on this end too quick, and he has to make a phenomenal formation. Indiana has this kind of just a bunch set into the boundary, and trying to see if they can isolate out here on a game, as I've said, is they've got to get Oregon off schedule. They cannot allow them to have third and medium, third and short. They got to force them into third and longs, otherwise it will be very tough with that and everything. Okay. Do you think Shannon will have more looks for Stays and Olowski? I would like for him to have Stays to get more, especially in a game like this, because of his size. I do think that's one thing that he brings to the table, his athleticism and his size. So I hope that that is more of an occurrence. He's the better receiver of the two, not to say that Olowski hasn't done well. He had the big touchdown, tight end screen. But I like to see Stays get a little bit more looks in this ball game from a passing standpoint more so than anything. But we'll see what all happens there. I've got the game here with Oregon's defense versus Penn State and Oklahoma State. I'm trying to pull some things up here real quick if I can, and just kind of get a quick aspect of things here. This is kind of the let's get back over here to this one. Kind of some of just first down plays for this game. And again, this is a game that I said, like, Penn State did a lot of fluff with their formations and stuff. See, this is an unbalanced set. They did this quite a bit, but you can see their main defense is this is Dylan. They like to put him there, and they like to play this shell in behind him. And what this is, and you'll see sometimes these backers are out here leveraging a formation, and he's just the only one in there having, what do you want him to do? They just say, hey, see ball, get ball. But you can see why he's just going to keep going. They do a great job there. It's a 2-yard gain. I just don't think you're going to run around this group. It's not to say that you don't try some things to the perimeter like Indiana has, but the more you can go right at them, the better. I just think it's, you're messing with things you don't need to mess with. Here's a trade from a base set to another unbalanced set, as you can see here. This is their bear front. Everything's covered up. When they're in bear, Dylan's back here now as a true free safety, and they're in cover, what I call cover one. He's going to have more of a open middle field type of guy. And this is more of a linebacker type right there. There's 44 and Mateo's right there, number 10. So they do some things. They change it up. You can see how quick they're off the ball here. Mateo's already in the B gap and cause problems. There's a lot of congestion on the inside. So you better come off the ball. You better come off with some aggressiveness. And if you're going to run it up the middle, you're going to have to move some big bodies. And Mateo's biggest asset is his quickness. Now, he's like 260 pounds. He's 6'5". He's a big, tall kid. There's 28 stepping in there. He's not afraid. Dylan getting his nose in there, as you can see. Aggressive defense in terms of what they like to do. And I'm going to try to get it to some couple passes on here on first down as well, out of a 2x2 set, which is what we got here. And then we'll move on quickly. Again, base front is this with him sitting there, what I call a robber spot, because he's the guy that's hanging and watching what's happening in front of him. And they pretty much give him free reign. As it looks now, you can see these backers, they're really outside leveraging, and they're going to be mostly your B-gap players if it's a run play, unless they've got some type of stun on. But you can see in behind here, they're in what I call 22 rob. This may be more of a quarter rob situation here because this guy's playing so deep. But you can watch Dylan. He's just kind of looking, then he's going to jump crossers like he did there. So here they are running mesh route. He's jumping that guy. And they're doing a good job of passing off from the corner to the linebacker here at the top on this mesh. And they got guys covered, man. I mean, it's a hard thing to get guys open against this. And you can see Drew's back there waiting to throw the ball. There's nobody there. And by the time he's pulling it down, here's the guy that's coming open in that middle of the field. So, you know, their rush is going to get to you. And that's why he pulled it down quite a bit against these guys, is because he felt the pressure. He felt the pressure coming. Again, 1st and 10, normal defense, what I call 22 Rob. These guys are kind of playing man under 2 deep. Again, kind of an over front, a 1, a 3, a wide 5. They want to leverage it. But you can see what I mean. I mean, here's the one backer, here's the other backer. I mean, so in theory, they're not playing with any backers in the box unless you're going to count him going to come down and fill it, which is kind of unorthodox a little bit, but they do it and do it well, and they're trying to bait you into running it. There was a pretty good shot there. What I want to get to here now quickly is 3rd down, what you can expect to see out of them on 3rd downs. Oh, let's see here. 3rd downs. And all right, here's some 3rd and longs. As you can see, here's a 3rd and 16 where they're just going to play a pretty standard look. Not too much there. Base coverage, playing their base. You know, Indiana has got to stay out of these type of deals on Saturday. Did a nice job checking it down there against that one here. I do want to try to get over to some Penn State stuff, or let's do this. Their game against whoops, let's see here. Let's see. Here we go. This was their game against Oregon State, and I'll show you some things here. They against these guys, and you'll see it here. Against Penn State, it got really junky at times because Penn State was a little bit all over the place. So now you're going to see more traditional offense here from Oregon State, like Indiana runs here. And now you see where they got the backers inside there now, playing like I call it a 4-2. Going to play one high. There's Dylan. He's coming in to take him and play the run, as you can see there. So a 7-man box is pretty heavy. You're one-on-one on the outside. And if Indiana is going to take advantage of it, these guys that are outside here have got to win. Whether it's EJ or Surratt and whatever they do, they've got to win on one-on-one type of situations. I think their corners are, pretty good. I don't think they're necessarily world beaters to a degree, but you're not going to have a lot of time. As you can see, here's a little stunt inside a TE. And that's what you can't do. That's called a wish me ball. I wish I had it back, because he's just throwing it up to nobody. I mean, that's bad football, man. That's bad football. Hockey. You bet, man. Here's a 3rd and 8 situation. They like to do this quite a bit, where they're going to put these guys up, and I call it a bluff look. It's still a 4-man front, 2 backers, but all of a sudden it takes on a 6-box look as well, and they're playing man in behind it. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but rarely will they bring any more than 5? They'll bring a backer at time, but most of the time these guys are going to bluff and bail out and try to get the quarterback to panic and maybe just throw up too late, as they're doing here, and just letting the guys with 4-man rush get to it. But again, there's one shot down the field, not a great one, but you got to win those outside battles, and they're going to have to win it on Saturday as well, because this is what Oregon does. This is the team they are. Now, Oregon State scores on their first drive, makes it 7-7. Again, here's a 3rd and 8 that they were able to capitalize on. This time they're bringing the one backer there, so a good 5-man pressure. Now they're playing cover 1, man-to-man. And this, when you get this look as a quarterback and whatever they call, you got to be careful where he's at, because he does not want to throw that quick slant, because this cat will take his head off. So this is one of those games where you may want to look to throw away from him, because he's going to favor the field in this type of set. But, Oregon State doesn't block him here. They run a screen. This was a good call here. And I think Michael had talked about the screen game possibility, so you can see it there as well. Let's see here. Again, down here in the red zone, again, you can see when you give them standard formations, this is a formation that their offense run, you're going to get pretty clean looks. I mean, that's a clean look for the quarterback, and that's important. He can look at that and visualize, you've got a hard corner here in the boundary with a hash player, soft corner up here. So they're playing probably quarters to the field. This guy's got a 4th. He's got a 4th. He's got flat. These guys are still hook curl, half player, and then he's manning up on that guy. But again, you got to take a look at what you got, and they run a wheel route and catch them, because I got a feeling that guy that's flat there is supposed to run with him, and this is a big play. They've got him, and that's what you got to be able to do against them. When you get a chance to make a big play, you got to make it, and you can't not take a good shot. Last one here. Again, this one's a little bit goofy. You got 3rd and 6. You got 3 down linemen, kind of a 3-backer look. But again, the key for the quarterback's there. Feynman's in center field. They're going to be in a man free, and they'll probably bring an extra guy to get a 4-man pressure at least, and maybe 5-man. We'll see. So now they're faking up inside, but they're going to bring this cat. So that's where you got to have your head on a swivel a little bit, and the defense is the offensive line is going to have to be smart. But don't force the ball when you don't have to. Look at his check down here. There's nothing open there, young man. Look at this guy. There's no one on him. Or this guy. What's he throwing it up here into double coverage? And this guy's sitting ready for a pick. Sometimes I just look at this and say, what in the heck are they teaching these cats? And I know it's a little bit easier because I'm watching it on film, but at the same time, that's why you get beat, because you do stupid stuff like that. Again, pretty good look at this in a lot of respects. 5-man, 6-man box. Man free. Okay. This is a great job here. He finds his escape route. For quarterbacks, when you're rushed like this, you're probably going to find a lot of escapability in your B gaps. For whatever reason, that holds up pretty regularly, that if you're a quarterback, your escape routes most likely will be one of the 2 B gaps. And he does the right thing here, stepping up. And what he should do is take off and run it. And he's sitting there trying to throw it, and it looks ugly. Hey, I've rambled on enough. I mean, one time I'm just going to have total film session and go through these films, but this is kind of what I like to do when I'm having my free time. But again, Indiana, great opportunity in front of it. What they're going to have to do Saturday is they're going to have to find ways to get 2 turnovers. They're going to have to win the field position where they're forcing Oregon a long field to drive consistently and get them off schedule as a defense. Eliminate the third and mediums, the third and ones. Get them in that 3rd and 7, 3rd and long. Get those couple turnovers. Win the field position battle. Same thing with special team. Find a way to score or set up a score on Saturday. And then offensively, they got to keep what they're doing, mix and matching what they run offensively to keep that what we call a balanced offense. But I do think one of the biggest things they have to do Saturday is they got to find ways to take some calculated shots down the field and try to win on the outside with EJ or get Holden Stays in there one-on-one in that regard, and Coop and Surratt. So look, it's a game that Indiana is, if you look at it on paper, it's a pretty even matchup. If you look at it from the standpoint of what 5 stars they got versus what Indiana has, there's a disparity there. There's no question about that because they're a national power type of team. But these are the type of games that Indiana at some point in time has got to win one of these. They've got to beat an Oregon, Ohio State, or Michigan like we had in the past and things of that nature, or Penn State. Because right now, that's what's keeping them beat down out of the national spotlight and the brand awareness category, is because every time you talk about Indiana, even though they're ranked 7th, the question always is, hey, yeah, they're pretty good, but they haven't beat Oregon, or they haven't beat this and that and who else, where you got Ole Miss that's beat LSU. So it's time for one of these big wins on the road. Mendoza's played in this environment there at Oregon in a game that for the first half was pretty tight, and he did quite well. Then Bo Nix caught fire, and they just kind of took over. And from the rest of the game, Mendoza was running for his life against that Cal offensive line that gave up 42 sacks last year. So, again, a couple things before we go. Remember, you can catch a recap of everything that happens on Saturday, Monday night, 7:30 here at the tailgate on thehoosier.com. We will have a pregame show this Saturday, to be determined time, but probably looking at it 2 hours before kickoff. Jim Coyle live on site in Eugene, Oregon, and myself here. And then, of course, after the game, look for a post-game show, as we've done already, 30 minutes or so right after the end of the ball game. We'll get a chance to quickly reflect on the game, and you can get everything with us as well next week. Jim Coyle will be back tomorrow on Indiana Sports Beat Radio live from Eugene, Oregon. But for now, I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith, and I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me tonight here on the Hoosier Tailgate on thehoosier.com. Have a great night and a great weekend, everybody, and let's see if the Hoosiers can get one on the road. We'll see you.